Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rodeo Kids podcast. I'm your host, Marie Rorda, and today we have quite the guest. It's going to be a very informative day on equine nutrition and health, which is something that we can all learn a little bit about. But before we get started, of course, I want to share what we've got going on with Rodeo Kids right now. It is the beginning of a new year, therefore, we have the new Rodeo Kids ambassador team. We did start in February this year. We are going to leave the process to apply open through the month of February. We're going to cut it off on February 26th. But as of right now, guys, we have got a group of kids that are on fire for rodeo, for the Lord, for growing and getting better. And, they say that you are who you surround yourself with. And this team is they're the kind of people you want to surround yourself with. Kids from all across the country who want to strive to get better, both inside and outside of the arena. Because that's what it takes for this life to be enjoyable, is to be surrounded by people who can support you and cheer you on and provide you with insight and perspective that will just help you to have that better mindset and to understand things and to grow and to pray with you. Like, it is just so amazing, the power of prayer in a group. And that's what these kids are doing. So if you're interested, there's still time to sign up in February. It's going to be an awesome year. We have the whole year planned out already. With a retreat in September. That's a spoiler alert to those of you who have already signed up and don't know about it yet. But we will have our first team meeting on February 19th. If you're not signed up by then, not a huge deal. We can catch you up later. It is primarily an online format. We have a text group. We have monthly challenges that are spelled out on the website so that you can finish those. We have Zoom meetings scheduled with different professionals throughout the year. You'll get to be on a Rodeo Kids podcast and just all kinds of cool things that I don't know of any other program that you can experience this kind of stuff to prepare you outside of the arena so that you can perform better in the arena and in life. So head on over to RodeoKids.com/leadership team if you're interested in learning more. If you already know about it and you just needed that extra little nudge from the good Lord saying, hey, I heard this today and I've known about it and I've been thinking about it, or I've been thinking about it for my kids, it's time to go sign up, because you won't regret it. And it is a membership based fee. So you can do $14.99 a month or $149.99 for the year. And guys, it'll be worth it. Think of how much you spend in entry fees that you don't spend in even preparing your brain or your body or anything. It's literally 1, 2, 3 entry fees to help you all year in this program. So definitely worth it. Parents, if you guys are looking for that extra support, like in rodeo, we know that so many of the parents, you're out there, you're being the coaches, you're the bus driver, you're the cook, you're the banker, you're everything for these kids. And you need a little support too. And that's where we can come in to provide a little outside support, just give a little direction, some perspective, and just help you guys out so that you're not out there just doing it all by yourselves either. So if you are ready to make the jump, just go to RodeoKids.com/join now and get signed up today. Today's podcast, we have Rodeo Kids Ambassador Isaiah Ellis from Jay, Florida, speaking with Dr. Harry Anderson from Total Feeds. Like I said before, this podcast is packed with all kinds of cool information and insight. If you are interested at all in equine nutrition, which if you have horses, I hope you're interested in it, because that's a huge part of keeping them performing and feeling well and lasting a long time. And when we feed them right and when we know how to take care of their nutrition, and then throw in a good exercise program and diet and nutrition, that's what makes these horses last a long time. And it can be a total game changer if you have the right knowledge to put it all together, the pieces of the puzzle. So you're going to want to take a listen to this. Dr. Harry Anderson is so kind and so willing to share his information, and Isaiah has a bunch of awesome questions. Enough of me talking. Let's get started with Isaiah Ellis interviewing Dr. Harry Anderson from Total Feeds.
World changer, history maker. World changer, history maker.
Welcome to the RodeoKids.com podcast, where we empower youth to be their best selves through the values and traditions of the rodeo and Western lifestyle.
Well, hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited you could join. My name is Isaiah. And first, could you start off by telling us a little bit about you and what you do?
Oh, my name is Harry Anderson. I am a PhD nutritionist, equine nutritionist, and for all species, but currently focusing on equine nutrition. I do I have a company called Total Feeds Incorporated, and which has been in business for about 11 years now. And actually, I've been in the feed thing for 54 years. I've been 54 years ago, I graduated from college, and I've been out here doing this kind of stuff ever since. So
Right.
a lot of water has crossed under the bridge in that length of time. But I do, my wife and I own this feed company. My two sons work for us, and my daughter, one of my daughter-in-laws works for us, and that is the entire company. We're a very small, streamlined, easy managed feed company.
Mm-hmm.
We sell feed nationwide, but just a quick background on where I've been. When I got out of school, I worked for the University of Wyoming for 3 years as an extension person and enjoyed it a lot. Then I went to work for Purina. It was Ralston Purina back then, and spent 15 years with them in the late early 70s to the late 80s, and was a feedlot consultant. I worked with large feed yards, did rations for all those fattening cattle, and
Mm-hmm.
didn't do much with horses at all. But in late 80s, we parted company, and I became a private consultant, and I still worked with feed yards for many years. But then one day in the year 2000, a veterinarian came to me and said, "Can you make an equine formula that will feed every equine in the world, young, old,
Mm-hmm.
in between, whatever?" And I had to think just a little bit, but I said, I think I can. So I went against I was swimming upstream because
Yeah.
nobody was doing that. No feed company was trying to do that. So I did. I wrote a formula on a piece of paper in the year 2000. And I guess I lucked out because it's exactly the same formula today. I haven't changed it. And we are feeding every horse in the world. And it doesn't matter what the horse is doing or how big or small.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we've
And I'm
we've
sure with
simplified the equine nutrition world, I think.
right. And I'm sure with it, y'all having it inside the family, it's a lot easier to manage, have you found that easier to manage with just you and your family running that?
Oh, absolutely, Isaiah. I'm not good at managing lots of people, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't dare get very many employees because I'm a disaster at that. But
Right.
I can kind of work with my family because we've worked together for all these years.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the Purina thing, would you say that working for Purina has helped you with the Total Feeds, helping you grow your Total Feeds brand?
Well, working for Purina, and I don't know about the other major companies, but Purina, um, they give you a lot of selling techniques. I went to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sales schools, and I have to give them credit for many of my selling ideas and so on. But uh, they're different than we are
Mm-hmm.
because large companies are a little cumbersome
Mm-hmm.
in making decisions and putting things out there.
Right.
We have been very late-footed and flexible to be able to change directions in a heartbeat if we feel we need to, and that kind of what we're doing today. We're making some major directional changes in our marketing.
Right. And with the when we're talking about when you first were growing up, was horses? Were you growing up with horses? Is that why did you want to first start going into college for feed? Were you growing up around horses, or is this something you've kind of developed later on? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've always loved horses, even when I was a little tyke. But I grew up on actually a grain farm in North Dakota,
Wow.
and but back that was in the during World War II when I was born, and so
Wow.
at that time, yeah, wow. Let's see, if I told you I was born in 1943, you might be able to figure my age. Yeah, my wife and I are 80 years old.
Wow.
And we just turned 80, and but we both grew up on neighboring farms
Mm-hmm.
in during World War II. And at that time, there was a big transition taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Horses were basically going out of the farming business. Tractors were coming in. So really, we had a couple of saddle horses, but we had uh, big horses. We
Mm-hmm.
had a team of percherons, and
Right.
so my first experience with handling horses was actually driving a team of percherons while my dad would would load a hay rack with hay, and I was only
Wow.
about 5 years old when I could actually drive that team of percherons. The gentle giants. They're so kind and easy to work with, and so that was my first experience. But we had beef cows, dairy cows, chickens, turkeys, pigs. We had it all, and
Wow.
so it was very, very diversified. But that was good because
Mm-hmm.
I learned to really appreciate and have experience with so many different kinds of animals and birds, which I still think about today. Some of the experiences I had way back then that have helped me understand their mentality and their psychology. They all
Right.
they all have their own way of thinking, right?
Right. It sounds like you were doing a lot more at 5 than what you see most 5-year-olds doing nowadays. Um,
Yes,
it- you can, you can tell
we
a
were just
difference in how
expected to do work.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, what made you want to go to college for what you did?
Uh, I wasn't even sure when I was in school, high school especially. I shouldn't admit this, but I was a really terrible student. And all I could think about was not being in school
Right.
because I had work to do on the farm, so I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to be in school. So
Yeah.
I when I graduated from high school, I literally was in the bottom third of my class in a class of 14. So that's not a real high expectation from someone like that. But I had a sister a year older. She was already in college one year. And so I decided, well, I better go to college where she did. So I went to the University of North Dakota, which was kind of the medical school and that kind of liberal arts school and law school. And I had no idea what I wanted to be. I was going to be an engineer. I thought that would be cool. Well, that wasn't my thing. I was a
Right.
disaster the first semester, and after the first year, they suggested that I might want to go do something else rather than go to school. and but but I decided that's when I got kind of bullheaded, and I said, I got to make this work. So I convinced them to let me stay a second year, got my grades up high enough, and I thought, this isn't for me. So I looked at North Dakota State University, which is the land grant college and the ag school. And I thought, well, Ollie, I like animals. Why don't I just go there and try it? So I did. And from then on, I started to enjoy school for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
At 20 years old, I started to enjoy school. So I spent uh, 3 years there, got married while I was there, and had one son. And then I didn't again, when I graduated, I had a degree in animal science, a general degree
Mm-hmm.
in animal.
Right.
Worked my way through school working in the pig barn. Yeah, cleaning pig pens and stuff. That was highly respected work.
Right.
But when I got out of school, I couldn't really find anything that I liked as far as a job with a bachelor. So, and one
Mhm.
day a graduate student uh, showed me on the bulletin board by the office, the animal science. They said, "Have you looked at that fellowship at South Dakota State?" I said, "Wow, what's a fellowship?" and, and they said, "Well, they'll pay you some money to go to school." So,
Right.
so I grabbed that off the wall, and by that time I'd gotten my grades up quite well. And so I sent a letter to South Dakota State to see if they were interested. They sent a letter right back and said, "You can come this fall." Oh, wow. Okay, now I didn't know what I was doing, but I went and I really enjoyed graduate school because it got into the the courses that really meant something to me from where I started out as a youngster. I guess I'm trying to tie all that together. Uh, and so then I got that together, and I got a degree in swine nutrition actually, um, and the University of Wyoming hired me and said, "Do you want to be a specialist?" And I said, "Sure, I'll come out and try it." Well, lo and behold, Wyoming has a very small staff. And so I
Right.
was working the whole state of Wyoming, every county with county agents, and we didn't have very many specialists. So I ended up working with swine and dairy and horses and that everything. Here again, it was like old McDonald's farm where I started. So
Yeah.
I have a broad spectrum of experiences.
Hmm.
And then along came after I was only there 3 years, and I was having a really great success. And Purina came along and said, "Would you like to be a feedlot consultant?" I said, "What's a
And
feedlot?"
yeah, it
But they
seemed like
taught
you
me.
were very seemed like you were very go with the flow with everything that you did, kind of going through school and everything. You're like, sure, why not? What's a fellowship, you know? And that seems so. Let's go to the time where you said that a veterinarian asked you to make the feed. Was that
Yes,
while
sir.
you were with Rena, or where was that? When was that? And how long did it take you to finally come out with that thing you wrote?
Okay. Oh, that's a good question because I was long gone from Purina when that happened.
Okay.
I'd been a private consultant for 11 years,
Okay.
working privately with feedlots and other and ranch operations, doing nutrition work and so on. And so in the year 2000, when I made up my mind, because my ego said that I could make that happen, even though no one had ever done that, a singular formula for the whole sector. And so I sat down one day, and you can believe it or not, but I took my piece of paper and I wrote out a formula that, with all the experiences and education and all that was kind of coming to a head. And so I wrote that down on a piece of paper, and that hasn't changed in 23 years, just from that one 30-minute session.
Wow. So it
Sometimes
was like one of the questions I was going to ask is was like when making the Total Feed brand, was it like making a light bulb? Like it was like 1,000 different tries, and finally they got the end result. But it seemed like it was pretty easy for you with the experience that you had. Is that about right?
Yes, well, it was the experience that allowed that to happen. I'd already been on the firing line for about 50 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 30 years. I'm sorry. I've
Okay.
been under the gun for 30 years working with all these species. So
Right.
I kind of knew what some of the things that worked and some that didn't. And then I took that and went through here's how I actually did it, Isaiah. I sat down and I said, what nutrients will make a cell replicate? Isn't that what we're all about? If we're going to grow, we have to
Right.
have these cells that replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, oh my, well, here's a list of nutrients that that cell requires. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this would work for a cell in my body. It would work for a bacteria in the rumen of a cow. It would work for a bacteria in the soil or a lagoon. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
A single cell needs that same stuff. So that's where it
Right.
all started. And when I wrote that down, then I said, okay, how do I get this to the cells? So
Right.
that's when I had this. See, I have a premix that makes up 2.5% of my formula, and that's
Right.
what makes it work. The rest of it I can change various ways if I wanted to, and it would still work. I'm
Okay.
keying in on that one small portion. So I said, okay, this is going to work for every species. And so what I've ended up with is one product for every species.
Hmm.
One dog product, one cattle
So
product, one goat product.
with so there was no way to make it like a all purpose kind of feed. Why? My next question was you have uh total bull, you have total equine, a few different totals. So can you tell us a little about the total brand? I know, like, why was it not an all purpose? Why could you not make it an all purpose? And all the brands you have and why you made them.
Okay, it is a really good question. And I wish I had a great answer for it. But
Yeah.
when I guess I fell prey to the thought process that every species is different. So uh, the total bull was the second product I made, and I
Was
was
total equine the first one?
yes, total equine was the first, and it's still a flagship product that is 90% of all my sales.
And do you have two total equine, two different total equine?
I was kind of forced to do that for the metabolic horses. The
Okay.
regular product has some grain in it. And when people call and say, "Oh, I've got an insulin resistant horse or a metabolic problem horse," they can't have they can't have all that starch and sugar. So I said, "Okay, I'll make one for you." Now we do sell some of that, but not it's not a major product. It's just lower. It's no grain in it.
And that was your
It's
second?
That 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 was actually no, that came later. The total bull started first.
Okay.
But
And so after you came out with total feeds, was it like people asking for total bull product, or was it kind of they came out at the same time, or how did that come about?
again, by accident, I I got a
Really?
call one day from a bull producer, a bucking bull producer, that said, you've helped these horses so much. Why can't you help the my bulls? I said,
Hmm.
"Oh, sure I can." So I took the same basic stuff and made it into a little different total ration, with a little more grain and stuff for a bull. And I took it to him and I said, "Okay, here's the bull product because first of all, my horse product is a fairly low feeding rate, and I'm proud of
Hmm.
that because it works that way." I took it to
Oh
him and
yeah.
I said, "Okay, now you feed 5 pounds of this to your bulls." "What?" They said, "You're crazy." I said, "Why am I crazy?" They said, "Because we're feeding 15 to 18 pounds of grain to these big bulls." I said, "We don't need to. We just feed
Yeah.
them hay and this." And so they started feeding it. Within about 2 to 3 weeks, I had calls and they said, "What's going on with this? My bulls almost quit eating hay." I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, they've cut back 30% or 40% or whatever it is." And we changed the uh, digestibility of hay. We increased the fiber digestibility that they were getting so much more nutrition out of less feed that they didn't want anymore. And
Wow.
and it's the same thing with the horses. We increased the fiber, and we've got data on this. We actually had some research done uh, that where we showed that in horses, if you feed 4 pounds of total equine, the hay intake drops by 11%.
Wow.
That's a big deal, right?
And did that shock you when you heard that? Was that something that shocked you, or was that something you kind of expected when making the formula?
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
There were several
That
things I did. I did not predict or expect, Isaiah.
wow.
That's the fun part of this is I had no idea what was coming to me
Yeah.
uh, that I was going to see. Like that's one of the things that we can document, and that's one thing people were telling me for years before we did the
Right.
research. The other thing is the hoof growth. People started showing me how their horses were getting a new set of hooves in less than 5 months. And the first time
Yes.
somebody told me that, I said, it can't be true. You know, I don't think I'm going to
Mhm.
buy it. Well, they proved it to me. And so a lot of people have proved to me since then that a horse on total equine will grow a new hoof, complete new hoof in about half the time in nature does.
Right.
And so that was quite an interesting deal. And then the other thing is, you know, one of the things you as horse people worry about is colic, right? I mean, it's
Yes, for
always in the
sure.
back of your mind.
Yes, all the time.
Well, I discovered almost by accident, well, probably I guess I have to say it is by accident, that you cannot cause a gas colic in a horse with total equine.
Wow.
No, I mean, they can colic while they're on total equine, but it's not going to be because of that. It's going to be because of lack of water intake or something like
Something
that,
else.
or overheating or whatever. But you just won't colic one because you fed it some total equine, and that's been a big safety factor for a lot of people, especially people that travel. And
Yeah.
but I've had people call me and tell me their horse got in the feed room, you know, last night and they ate half a bag or some claim a whole bag, which I doubt.
Mhm.
But they said, "What should I do?" And I said, "Nothing."
Yeah,
What do you mean? I said, "Well, just wait. Don't call the vet. Just wait. And when they get
exactly.
hungry again, I've never had anybody call back and said they had a problem."
Yeah. It's and I haven't noticed that till now. Like we we have a lot of horses, and it doesn't seem like we have near as many colics since we've been on total feeds. That's something that I've just realized just now talking about it and thinking about it. That's kind of crazy just to think about that the feed can do that much of a difference.
Yeah.
What?
Well, and here's part of it. In my program, I use a seaweed called Ascophyllum nodosum. It's just a dry kelp meal. You'll see that on the tag, dried kelp meal, and it literally controls certain kinds of bacteria. It kills E. coli. It kills some of the salmonella and those things that actually cause the colics. It's a understandable once I figured that out. It's the same
Right.
effect of why it increases fiber digestion is why it prevents colic.
That's crazy. So let's go back to making your different brands. So we've talked about both your total horses, and we've talked about total bull. You have a couple more, don't you?
I have total goat,
Total
and
goat.
oh yeah,
Was
total
when did
goat,
you make that?
and that's not a big mover, but again, it's the same technology, and the people who use it tell me how they have their goats are more muscular, less
Yeah.
fat cover. They have better carcasses when they hang them up. The does milk extremely well. That's one thing another thing we didn't really think about is that milk production, it doesn't matter whether you're in bovine, mare, or a goat, they milk extremely heavy. They
Yeah.
produce milk much better. And that goes back to one of the effects, I believe, of the seaweed. The seaweed causes a vasodilation. It makes the blood vessels a little bit bigger. And if you have more blood flow through all the systems in the body, especially the udder, the the more blood you can pump through the udder of a cow or a horse or whatever, the better they're going to produce milk. It's just
Yeah.
that's a physiological given.
Yeah.
So
So
so we're proud of that.
now
And
I
go ahead.
I thought I've heard something about total people. Is that right, or is that something you do? Why did you do that? What is it for? How does it help? Tell us about that and how that came about. Total people. There it is.
Again, again, it. I had some people tell me. I think it was moral racers that said, you know, you've helped my horse settle down and calm down so much. Can you help me? I said, well, of course. So I took the working parts of Total Equine and the other
Yeah.
products. It's the same thing, and I condensed it down into the capsules. And now
Wow.
that's for people, and it's doing the same thing for people as I'm talking about for horses. It helps people calm down. If
Wow.
you're overexcitable, it'll help you calm down.
Were you a
And
little nervous making Total People, like going from the animals now going into people? Was that something a little nerve wracking for you, or is that something like you were okay with?
yeah, I had a few anxious moments
Mm-hmm.
to know how people were going to react to this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but but it's been a highly successful thing. I've got a string of stories about people healing up and
Yeah.
medical problems going away just because of good nutrition. And
Right.
so yeah, we're pretty proud of that. We sell that online and we do well with that. Um,
It sounds like a lot of your Total brands, I mean, except for Total Equine, has kind of come by an accident. It wasn't a plan, it wasn't in the original. But is there something you're like, this is what I want to start now? Is there anything that you're thinking of for the future? Another Total brand? Is there anything else you're thinking
well,
of? Or are you kind of content where you're at?
I'm still working on some projects. You know,
Okay.
I've got a
You're
lot of
having
things to do. I got a lot of things to do yet in life, but
yeah,
we hopefully will be coming with a good horse treat. We want to do that, and
that
then
would be awesome.
I have another product I helped develop in some Canadians. It's called Equine 15 that that is a really unique product too. It has helped
Is that a
not
is that an ointment?
only.
Is that an ointment? The Equine 15?
No, Equine 15 is a brand name of what we've got. And
Oh,
let's see, get it right here. This
yeah.
this is a unique brand, unique product.
Okay.
It's a sulfur compound that is antiviral, kills viruses, and it causes it's an anti-inflammatory for all those sore joints and stuff you get in horses. That's inflammation
Right.
goes away. Older horses are doing well on it and
Right.
helping with viral situations. We've got stories that make your head swim about successes with that little deal too.
Wow.
But then the one other product I have is Total Canine.
I've seen that.
That is working really well, but we just can't get any traction. There are only about 200 brands of dog food out there to compete with. It's
Wow.
not an easy market to get to.
Oh, I bet.
So we'll take what we get and don't worry about the rest. But now here's a thing that we're very, very proud of, and that is the impact on fertility that we, with all of our programs, it doesn't matter what species.
Right.
We have brought back um, and stud horses that were sterile
Mm-hmm.
at an advanced age, and we brought them back to full fertility.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, and we have stories of, and I have pictures of mares well into their 20s that had cycled and had babies for several years, put them on Total Equine, and all of a sudden have a baby within 12 months.
Wow.
And the same thing in cows, the same thing in goats, and dogs especially. The litter size in pup and dogs, the average that they tell me that they increase when they go on Total Canine is somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 pups per litter. And these dog breeders, they're ecstatic with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money for a dog breeder.
Yeah. So people who own horses, when they're feeding their horses, it seems like a big concern is supplement. Supplement. We need hoof supplement. We need muscle supplement. I noticed with Total Feeds, you don't need as many supplements, because it already helps with hooves, helps with less colic. Is that something you've noticed as well? Less. Do you feed supplements when you feed Total Feeds at all? No,
They're not needed. And
they're not.
and I I yell from the rooftops about this all the time. When I made this formula in the year 2000, I decided I'm going to make a product that you don't have to add anything to. It's all in
Right.
there. And
Hmm.
I can go through with people that have all these little top dresses they're putting on, and they'll say, well, do I need, biotin? No, it's in there. Well, do I need amino acid? No, they're in there. Do I need this? And after about three or four things, I say, no, are you getting the picture?
Uh-huh. I've done it. We need
That
nothing.
this is total.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yes, I have a real problem with that because if they're feeding to equine, they're just spending way too much money if they start putting these top dresses on it. And
Right.
I'm not going to stop some people. And the one that's the most common is the um, ulcer program. There's millions of dollars made on selling ulcer medicine to horses.
Hmm.
On total equine, rarely do I get a report of any ulcers.
Right.
Can they have them? Yes. But do you have any in your horses?
Mm-mm. No.
No. See,
Very rare. And we have,
right
oh yeah, we have like, I think 30, them 90% of them are on total feeds. And like, we're talking about, we've gotten rescue horses that are super skinny, and it does not take but a couple weeks to get them right back where they need to be. And it's not like we're loading them down with feed either. It's like you don't need that much. It's just the switch that they need to get them up.
Yeah.
They don't need a lot of supplements. They don't need, you know what I mean? They don't need a super bunch of hay. They don't need all this stuff. It's really the feed brand that they were needing. And like to see them transform, we have our thoroughbred that's done it. We've had draft horses on it, ponies, like anything. And like you can just see the difference in it.
Yeah. Well, I like the thing about, you mentioned rescue kind of horses that
Mm-hmm.
are really down and out.
Right.
The thing is the digestibility. See,
Mm-hmm.
the digestibility of total equine in the small intestine is over 90%. Whereas
Wow.
in any pelleted, and I'm not going to pick on any brand, but in pelleted feed in general, the digestibility is probably around 70%. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it also has to do with the trace minerals that we use. I
Mm-hmm.
use nothing but chelated trace minerals. They are the most bioavailable. They're over almost 100% digested by the horse and absorbed.
Right.
A lot of minerals are not absorbed very effectively in horses or cattle, and
Right.
kind of go on through if they're not digested in the right place. So,
Right.
so we're pretty proud of that too. That they're that efficient. You just take all these little things and put it together, and that's why you see the effects you see.
Right. Where did you where did you get the name Total Feeds, and where did you get your brand? Like that's always kind of fascinated me.
Oh, by accident, like everything else.
Oh, accident.
Yeah. When I started out with a name, I started out with Total Equine in 2000, and I had that for a while. And then some guys wanted to partner up with me, and they wanted to call it Cool and Calm, so we called it that for a couple of years, and that went south on them. And so they did some things. I had to part company with them, and so uh, when in the year 2000 we actually changed and started the name Total Feeds. It used to be under another name. Bioremedies was an old company I had. And so at that time, we sat down and we're talking about, well, what is this? I said, it's really a total package, a total nutrient package. Ah, total equine, total feeds, total bull means it's a total nutritional package or the micronutrients for that species.
Right.
And so, and in fact, I have more and more people all the time starting to feed total equine and no hay or grass. Did you
Wow.
know they can do that?
I did
They,
not.
okay, well, this came about by accident. I keep saying that comes
Yeah.
by.
Just kind of falls
Well,
into you.
in the early days of the extrusion process, when we started extruding it, like you see today, there was an old mare over in East Texas, a dealer had, and she was losing all her teeth. She just really could gum grass and just spit it out. You've seen the kind. And so he said, "Can I just feed Total Equine?" And I said, "Well, yeah. It's sure not going to colic her or anything." Well, she stayed alive for several years.
Hmm.
She was in a stall or in a small corral for several years and ate nothing but Total Equine. And I thought, this could help people.
Right.
So I started mentioning it, and other
Right.
people over time started using it for various reasons. And now there are people that feed it that way. They feed that way, even if they have hay available. They
Hmm.
don't feed it because of the cost.
Hmm.
If you if you feed if you're feeding 4 pounds today to a horse, you're going to feed 8 or 9 pounds of Total Equine and nothing else.
Right.
That does that sound reasonable? No, it doesn't.
Mm-mm. No.
I still don't know exactly how that's working, but I love the fact that we're helping all these horses that can't eat properly, or people that travel. I have people that travel today that when they leave home, they don't carry any hay or anything with them. They just carry Total Equine. They just bump it up to that
Yeah.
level, go on down the road.
Hmm. So for a kid that is wanting to grow up and maybe start their own feed business or something like that, what's some advice you would want to give to them, you know, from your career that you've learned, advice you'd want to give, maybe routes that they want to avoid that you've maybe went down, just some info for them.
Well, I'm not sure I can give you some real good advice because so many of my things came at me. Well, I guess here's the one thing I guess I think I can tell them. Watch for what's going on around you and what could be improved, and don't ever step over an opportunity because it looks silly.
Right.
The silliest thing in the world have been successes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that 95% of the people walk by, but a few people stopped and looked at it and figured out how to use it and make a change that made it better than what it was.
Wow.
One
Because
of
we'll
my
never be
favorite
perfect.
quotes on what you're saying is it's like it's got to do something with think of how rich the guy is who invented the pool noodle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that seems like a silly concept that we buy for $1 to $5 a piece, but I mean, heck, everybody in the world knows what a pool noodle is.
Yeah, I know. And that maybe brings to mind, we lived in Garden City, Kansas for 26 years, and about a few blocks away from us was a guy that invented the hula hoop.
Wow.
I don't know. You guys aren't old enough to know what a hula hoop is, I bet. You know?
Oh, I know what a hula hoop is.
Okay. It, it's a piece of plastic they put in a circle.
Uh-huh.
And they started that company with at the end of World War II, they had warehouses full of this plastic tubing for whatever, I
Hmm.
don't know what they were doing with it, but they didn't have a use for it. Well, he said, here's an idea, and it made him
Hmm.
millions. Same
Yeah.
thing.
That yeah. So when I was asking some people, what are some questions I should ask him? Like a lot of our friends, we sell total feeds to them, and they use total feeds. Um, they asked, why are the feed bags not 50 pounds? You know, typically when you think of a feed bag, it's 50 pounds, but total feed equine that we sell is 40 pounds. So why is that?
Because, well, the bulky nature of it. If
Hmm.
you take a scoop, a 3/4 scoop of pellets, they weigh 3 pounds. Take a
Okay.
3/4 scoop of total equine, what does it weigh? 2 pounds. it takes more space to have the same weight. So trying to put 50 pounds in that bag doesn't fit. And the other
Okay.
thing is the 40-pound bag, they stack much better on a pallet.
Oh yeah.
Now, I think some people say, well, you're cheating me. Well, I don't know how I can cheat you. If you
Read the
want to,
bag.
yeah, if you want, right, just pay attention,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
if you will look at the cost, if I were to make 50 pounds in a bag, the
Hmm.
cost per pound of feed would basically be the same.
Yeah.
And so
So it's just one of those things. It is what it is.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So going on to animal health, what is a common misconception you hear on, I mean, any really animal health, but specific to horses? What is a common misconception you hear with horse health, even if it's through feed or anything? What's a common misconception you hear?
Oh, golly, the common misconception, there are several, but um, probably when they start talking about the how to control colic or
Mm-hmm.
control digestive problems, I think the industry is not very savvy on that. They want to throw a bunch of chemicals and stuff in there, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that just not necessary. That they
Yeah.
they have almost got caught up in the chemical society
Mm-hmm.
that I avoid. See, I avoid all use of chemicals, and I
Mm-hmm.
have for years. Even at the end of my feedlot consulting career, I was trying to get all the chemicals out of the feedlot business, and uh, I almost got run out of the industry because of that. I was trying to do that. You know, there's a lot of money made on those additives and so on. They
Mm-hmm.
don't like you if you quit using them.
Yeah. I had a paint horse, and she, anywhere you go, knew it was like a fire breathing dragon, and she just snorted and snorted, and like you tried to ride her, knew it was just like she was just, I don't know, it was like it freaked her out a little bit. And when we had switched to total feeds, I noticed that she's went a lot calmer, and this just might be something that it's just me. Is that something else you hear from other people, that it actually makes the animal calmer when they feed total feeds? And is there any science behind that or reason behind it?
Yes, I hear that a lot. And in
You
fact,
do.
we've saved a lot of horses that were going to be go out of the business because they just didn't want to handle them. They were just uh, nutty. And special barrel horses that are trained to be half nuts. I didn't say that, but but I think
Easy now, easy now.
I bet I'm talking to a barrel racer.
Just part time.
Yeah, no, really, some of these we train. The way we train them, we get them hyper. Like I got some thoroughbreds down here that I work with. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, you got to be careful around them. But we've calmed them down too. We've saved some racehorses that they just couldn't get in the gate, and
Wow.
and they didn't want to handle them any longer. But we've got them down. Uh, Not by design, really, but in the
Mhm.
Ascophyllum nodosum, the seaweed, there is a compound in there called fucose. It's a sugar.
Mhm.
Fucose
Mhm.
sugar is part of the seaweed that makes up what they call fucoidin, which is a long chain of these fucose sugars.
Mhm.
And it's part of the plant and it's part of nature, but it's not something anybody talked about until I've
Mhm.
ran across it in the literature. But fucose sugar is a sugar that is found in the synaptic area of the nervous system. You know where the nerve pieces don't touch each other. They
Mhm.
have a fluid area that has to jump from here to here and on down the road,
Mhm.
and and the fucose sugar is always found in that synaptic area. So it's
Mhm.
part of that transmission process that has potassium and calcium and sodium and acetylcholine and all those things that carry it. and fucose is one other. If you have an increased supply of that, the transmission of nerves is smoother, if you will.
Mhm.
They don't overreact like it is. Now, the other thing is there are two parts of this. The other thing is I mentioned that I use chelated trace minerals. They're kind of expensive, but they have some special properties. They're digested at a much higher rate, and they go to the cell without getting changed until they are to a place where they need to be active. Magnesium is the nature's natural sedative, if you will.
Okay.
Magnesium, I could give you enough magnesium in the chelated form to make you just almost go to sleep.
Yeah.
And but in the animal world, in the real world, if you have that in your program and the chelated form, it goes to the sites of the nervous system, and it helps control those jerky movements because it's one of the real important ones in the nerve transmission. That and calcium. If you have too much calcium or potassium, well, like potassium. Potassium is a good example of this. If if you've been around the cattle business at all, and you have calves running on nice, lush, young grass or wheat pasture, and you get grass tetany, is where their muscles lock up and they just fall down and they'll die there if you don't do something about it. That's because potassium is accelerating the nerve transmission so fast that it locks up your muscles. There's not enough magnesium to slow it down and let the muscle retract. In
Mhm.
horses, if we give them some certain amount of magnesium, why it helps that muscle contract, relax better, and they don't tie up near as easy.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah. Well, a little confusing.
I
So,
know.
So
all
if you do have a horse that's prone to tying up, can you give them magnesium to help them come out of it?
Yes. Uh, if you have one, what kind of hay are they on, or what kind of grass?
Well, I don't actually have one right now. I mean, in the past we have. We live in
Okay.
Iowa and we usually feed alfalfa. We haven't had that issue for a long time, but I know that there are people who do. So I'm just wondering if that's something, if you have a horse that you notice, like, oh wow, my horse has started tying up, can you add magnesium to their diet? Or if
Yes.
they're in the middle of a tie up, can you give them magnesium?
Well, you would almost have to mainline it. CalMag. That's what they use for grouse tetany. You go to the vet and you get CalMag. It has calcium and magnesium in it, and you jug it, and
Okay.
and I've seen cattle with grass tetany. They jug them with that, and they can be laying there stiff, and with 5 minutes they're up running off. That's how fast it works.
wow.
Wow. I
So,
wonder if my husband knows about that. We have a feedlot and also have cow calf operation and stuff. So I wonder if I'm sure he's aware of it. I just haven't ran into it with him yet.
Well, it's not real common. It's certain
Yeah.
seasons and certain conditions have to be there. It's usually in that little short grass when at first nothing but leaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's when the potassium is so crazy high and the calcium is way low, magnesium is low, and that's when it happens.
Okay.
But I have
Is
a
that
mineral for that.
Oh, cool. Is that kind of like in the same time frame that you find ponies foundering?
Well, founder is a different thing. Founder is, yeah, well, it's the same time frame, yes. Uh,
Okay.
Founder is when you put non-structural carbohydrate, soluble carbohydrate from grass or feed. Man-made founder is when we feed them too much starchy pellets too
Mm-hmm.
fast. colic and founder. On that lush grass, that's loaded in sugar also. And what happens is when it ferments those in the hind gut, it creates not just gas, but lactic acid. And when lactic acid reaches a quick high level, it actually changes the blood, and the histamine in the blood causes a vasoconstriction. And founder is caused by a constricting of the blood vessels in the leg above the hoof. That's why Total Equine helps prevent that, or my mineral help prevent that, because it keeps those vessels open. And if you don't interrupt that blood flow, you're not going to have founder.
Right.
It's that simple, really. I hate to say it, but it's simple.
Interesting.
All right. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna try to finish up. But obviously when we start something, whether it be simple as a diet or starting our own feed company, we believe in ourselves to a certain extent. But did you ever think that Total Feed would come this far, this fast?
No.
No?
No. Not with 4 people in the company.
Yeah.
There's only 4 paychecks in my company. That is our whole company. And we're in almost every state in the union. And we have 1,300 dealers right now that we deal with. So it's been a fun ride, and like I said earlier, young people need to watch for the little opportunities and jump on them and take a chance. Risk. Nothing happens without risk. When I started this company, my wife and I were actually almost living on our Social Security check, because we had just started getting Social Security and things were not looking good. And I spent everything I had in savings and everything else to start this company.
Wow, you took a risky move. Very risky.
Isaiah knows this, but Dr. Anderson, I have a company. It's called the Performance Pony Company, and so I sell all pony tack, and it's kind of the same deal where ponies, like, who would have ever thought that you could make a living selling stuff for ponies, just bits and tack and stuff like that. And so it's kind of what you're saying, where you just have to be willing to make that jump sometimes, because it's where you see that need. If you think, man, why isn't somebody doing this? Or, man, we need this. And like you said, if it's the silliest thing, it can be what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. If there's a hole, fill it.
Yes, exactly. That might be a good title, Isaiah. If there's a hole, fill it.
That'll be the title.
You're going to be a success, young man.
Oh, yeah.
And I am proud to know you.
Thank you.
Me
Thank
too.
You. If I was looking to buy Total Feeds, if I was someone looking to buy Total Feeds, don't you have some kind of something to find a local dealer in your area?
Yes. Go on totalfeeds.com and then just go to dealer locator, and it will plug in your zip code or a town, and it'll bring up everything within 100 miles.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Something that I loved about Total Feeds, and I didn't realize till Vegas when I met you, is usually, like, if you're going to call a big company, whether any kind of big company, you're like waiting on hold, or you're, hold on 1 second, let me transfer your call and all this stuff. You're like, call the number on the back of the bag. It's my cell phone. Text me. It's my cell phone number. It's right here. And like, that was awesome. I'm sure that's helped. And it might be aggravating at some points, but I'm sure it's helped out a lot, with customers, helped you out a lot. Have you seen that?
I shocked a lot of people.
Yeah, that shocked me for sure.
Well, I've enjoyed this immensely, guys.
That's all the questions I have. Do you have any other questions, Cameron?
No, I would just want to back up what Isaiah said. Like, I'm the same way with my businesses. Everything's got my cell phone. I mean, you called me last night, on my cell phone, and
Yes.
I think that's the beauty of small businesses and supporting small businesses, is that you get that customer service and you get that interaction and get to build that relationship with people. And I think as young people, as parents, as they listen to this podcast, Dr. Anderson, you've got lots of experience and wisdom, and myself, I'm in the process of getting to the level that you're at, and Isaiah, you're up and coming. But I think as you teach kids and as kids continue to learn and we have the opportunity, just remembering that it's those relationships, it's talking to people, it's being available, how important that is, and the eye contact and being present can get you so far, and it just helps build relationships, which helps build business, which helps build success.
You've got it right there. You just heard it from a professional.
You started it. So yes,
All
thank
right.
you very much for being on the podcast. And I know I didn't get to be in all of it, but I am familiar with your feeds, and I know that just my experience of what I've heard of you and what I've seen of you, it just like Isaiah said, it's awesome, and just your presence, you do such a good job representing your feed in the industry that you deserve all the success that you've had, for sure.
Okay, well, thanks a lot and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you. If you found value in this podcast, please share it with your friends. Anybody you know who might be struggling with their feed or nutrition in their horses and their animals, tell them about Total Feeds, tell them about this podcast, and feel free to reach out to Dr. Harry Anderson. One of my favorite things about companies like his and what he's doing is that he's not trying to keep any secrets. There are people in this world who are trying to make a buck, and so they create products and things that they won't tell you everything about it because they know that there's some holes in it that don't make it quite as good to make it more affordable and make it more profitable for them. But Dr. Harry Anderson is not trying to do that. He is here to share with you his passion, his purpose, everything that there is about his feeds. So reach out to him if you have any questions about your animal nutrition feeds. And don't forget, RodeoKids.com. We are here to support the youth. Apply now if you haven't yet for the Rodeo Kids Ambassador Team, and that's something that you feel like would fit into your family dynamic. And also, if this is something that you've listened to and you would love to support, help us keep going, we do give away our monthly scholarships. We would love to have that support. And if you aren't sure how to support, maybe financially isn't an option for you right now, but you'd still like to get involved, please reach out to us. We would love to have you as part of our team. Just head on over to RodeoKids.com/support to learn more, or give me a call, Cam-Marie, at 641-799-5042 or info@RodeoKids.com. But not least, whatever you're doing, wherever you're headed, good luck, safe travels, and God bless while chasing your gold buckle dreams.